and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host and Disembodied Hands, Quinty, Disembodied Beard, John, and Arrowwiz with the resub for 53 months. That's a long freaking time. Hi everybody, how are you all doing? How was your weekend? How was your long holiday weekend? Those of you who got one, those of you in the UK, I'm sorry, and other areas of the world. We had our long weekend, but you get long weekends and long things when we don't. So it's fair. Yeah. She's being a brat. So Kerniko's here. I'm going to show you my neck dragon. She's going to want it though. Hold on. We had Kublai this weekend. And I discovered the cutest thing ever: the neck dragon. Sue's son-in-law was wearing it. It's to keep you cozy. It's a neck pillow. It's the best neck pillow ever. So it's a Kuroniko neck pillow. So yeah, so I got it. It's I have the tag still for anybody who wants. It's Long Loungers plush neck pillow. Here, I'll show you the tag. Anybody who wants to run out and find one. But I've been looking for something to keep my neck cozy in the winter anyway. And when I saw that thing, it was just too cute. And it was purple. So it had to be mine. Yeah, I knew you'd love it, Kuro. Nope. No, they don't. It like sits over here. Unless I'm like trying to do this. But I was thinking about making a little scarf for it to hold between its tail and its paws. That way I could have it like cover up my throat too. Yes, Long Loungers. So I don't know if you find it, but if you look up dragon neck pillow, I imagine you'll find it. The biggest problem with it is that Kiki wants it. Like, when David walked in with it, she was just like... So, Kiki really wanted the dragon neck pillow. I just thought it was adorable. And it satisfied my wish for something to wear around the house to keep my neck warm in the winter. Plus it's got, like, it's not, you know how you get some neck pillows and it's like they're so light they're just not even there, they're like foam. This one has a really pleasant weight to it, actually. So, it's nice. Anyway, it's cute. I wanted to share that with the dragon lovers. I knew there were the dragon lovers in the chat. I knew you would adore it. I don't know where the card for this guy went, so until I find his little number card, I've got so many. I really, really, really need to like go through that area and have a blowout organizational moment with it. Okay, we were just starting to glaze colors on this. Let me grab my Naga green. I was grabbing the wrong one. There it is. Naga. Now I want to grab, I think I used like lemon yellow for this. So I want lemon yellow for my highlight. Oh, they were at a Kickstarter and the stupid algorithm didn't tell you. Oh no, Kerniko. But yeah, so Kiki wants the dragon badly. She thinks it's for her. I mean, in her like defense, stuffed animals almost always would be for her, but she doesn't get them anymore because she destroys them. But she really wants it. I put it in originally it was in here sitting on my other bookshelf until suddenly I hear this barking sound and there's Kiki standing there in my office barking at the dragon because she wants it so badly. So I had to hide it in the closet. So green. Yeah, green. Let's get some of this Naga green out. We're going to thin it down because remember we want to glaze it over surfaces, not wash it over surfaces. There are differences. Actually, you know what? Whatever else I may think about like other miniatures companies and just general other miniatures companies products, Chimera did a really nice infographic on this for the Velvet's Kickstarter. So they're just trying to promote as to why that you want these Velvet inks. But what they did do is they essentially showed you the paint consistency. Look at the wash. So they've got a thing called filtering, and this is something from Europe that essentially means kind of a strong glaze. So look at, although it looks like this is even closer. Okay, so the filter, here we go. So they're showing you on the dilution. So a wash is there. We'll ignore the filter for now. And we'll go down to glaze. So the glaze is like invisible. Like it's way out there. And I think this is an excellent way to look at it. So if you're wondering, the filter is actually quite strong. It's not base coat, but it's kind of like a strong wash is what they're using for that. And the filter is what contrast paints do. So like if you wonder the European term for what contrast paints actually do, it's like a very strong wash, which essentially is like a filter. Which means you should be able to see some of your underpainting over it, right? But yeah, so I found this graphic to be really useful because with a wash, you do want to still see it, but you want it to be pretty pale. But with a glaze, you want to only barely see it. You want it to be colored water. So, and the purposes of the two is different, right? So yeah, although they make their shading very, very strong. Yeah, so I plonked down the money for this Kickstarter. We shall see. But I thought that infographic was actually excellent. It really shows kind of on a scale the difference of the paint consistency and the transparency that you want for different techniques. Oh, you might have to crochet one. I know. See, I think you just need to cultivate your American friends, Kuro, so that you can have the can you please fetch me this and I'll send you money. You need that brigade of us who will run out and acquire the things that you otherwise cannot find in the UK for you. Because we love you. All right, so I am going to thin my paint. This is too strong for glaze, right? Look, you can still see how strong it is. This is a wash consistency. It's far more of a wash consistency. Hey, fine line. And this is why I showed you that infographic, is so you can see it, right? You can see that this is really strong. Now let's put some of this up here and throw a little more water in it. Now, this is the difference. Wash, glaze. And that's why the slippery path to bankruptcy, yes. Oh, the flat tire. Yeah, it happens. So yeah, so there you are. That's the difference. You can still see it's there, but it's not like super there. And this is really the difference. And technically I would drop some, if I really wanted to make this into a wash, I would drop some medium into it to make it a little more transparent while still keeping its pigment strength. Ugh. You need new tire place. Or maybe it's the roads you drive. I don't know. I know that can be a thing. And there's no way to really control that. Alrighty. So there you go, guys. There's your visual thing. Now we could use this wash consistency as a heavy glaze. We could use, it's not contrast paint, by the way. Contrast paint would be, I'm not even gonna like mix that up, but contrast paint's more like a 3-to-1 average. But it varies, of course, by the color. So we could use that one. The thing is, you can glaze with a wash. It's because it's not just like paint consistency that you're looking at here. It is, the difference between the two is also in the purpose of them and in the application, which aligns with that purpose. So if you're looking at purpose driven, the purpose of a glaze is just shift the color of a surface without greatly impacting the highlights and shadows. You still want to see your highlights and shadows and the color underneath it. You're trying to shift that. In this case, we're trying to shift it toward green in both the shadow and the highlight. The wash is meant to add shadows in a very quick way. And so it is always applied, profusely, and you let it pool because that's where it's going to pool in your shadows. That's the point. Whereas with the glaze, you never let it pool because it's so broken down, it will dry in rings if you let it. Now that said, like I said, you can, if you're very confident, take this wash consistency and apply it like a glaze. So for me, that would be painting it over the surface of this thing. And with Naga Green especially, this would work fine because once you throw some water into it, Naga gets pretty transparent. So with your more transparent colors, you might be able to keep them thicker and glaze quite effectively. Now the other one we had to put quite a bit on, so here we go. So here's that thicker layer. We still don't want it to pool though, because if it pools, it's going to drag the shadows that we put in. It's going to make them go higher. We don't want that. We want our shadows to be preserved. So I'm going to pull off any excess. I'm not going to let it pool like a wash would. And that gets us our green over there to match our green here. And the difference here is, oh, nice. Good cycling. Everybody's happy. Sweet. Man, I lost it. I looked at chat and I just lost it. Oh yeah. So the thing is, if you're going to be using a heavier glaze, it's going to make you progress, like it's going to make the whole thing progress faster, but it's also going to run the risk of totally obliterating your highlights and shadows if you're not good with it. So for me, okay, I'm going to put this really more of a wash consistency over my shadow here, and I'm going to test it. And yeah, that made me a lot of progress, and that looks pretty good. What I could tell, though, is that if I did that over here, I'd probably lose a lot of this yellow, right? But remember also that glazing, often you're working with a wash or glaze, you're kind of at layering consistency or you're very close. So what you could do is you could layer the color in, but leave the highlight alone so that you green it out more, but that you preserve that yellow. But you can kind of see how the glaze kept this, the highlights and the shadows, whereas putting the thicker paint over here has killed some of them, right? Some of my more subtle ones went away. So it's just like, any paint built up in enough layers is going to be opaque. So remember that the more you put on, the more you're losing your underpainting. And you have to kind of just figure that out. So that's our green on the front. Let's do our green on the back. And I will use the thicker mix, but I'll be very careful with it. So I just want to put it, I'm scraping it pretty thin. There is no painting theme. I mean, if you mean color scheme, Polly, the point is that all of this is underpainting. All of this Death Knight Black and the lemon yellow to white is all underpainting. I wanted this to look like there was a strong spell effect or something glowing coming at the warrior. So there's a hard shadow here behind the shield and over part of the face to show where the light is falling there. I think need to darken it down here a bit too. But all I asked people is what color they wanted the model, and Naga Green was chosen. So I'm doing Naga Green. I'm going to work everything off of that color. No, okay. So underpainting, if you mean underpainting with then glazes over the top, yes. We are never washing here. You missed the start, so you missed my whole tirade on washing and glazing being different things. This is a wash. This is a glaze. We always glaze. Washing isn't just a paint consistency. A wash is also applied differently and the purpose is different. A wash is to give shadows by applying a layer of thinned paint that's applied thickly so that it falls into the crevices and it falls off of highlights, thus creating, a shadow where you want it. This paint is too light for a wash on everything except for maybe a light yellow or a very, very light green. So washes are always darker. They're applied a ton of the wash is put over the surface and is left to pool. A glaze is thinner. It's applied in multiple thin coats. It is applied very thinly, or you pull off any excess. It is never allowed to pool, and its purpose is not to add shading. Its purpose is to change the surface color in gradual increments. You can build a wash consistency, as I did there, and use it as a glaze if you are confident that it is not going to overwhelm your underpainting. Because the minute you add too thick of a coat, that's when you lose your underpainting, when you start to lose it. So you have to make that judgment call, and this is why I always tell people, go thinner rather than thicker until you really get a feel for how much it's going to change the surface. With transparent colors, like Naga green at full strength is a decently covering base coat for green, but when you thin it as much as I have here, it actually goes nicely transparent. So I can go with a little bit of a thicker mix and still not totally overwhelm my underpainting. However, that said, from here on out, I'm going to totally use the glaze consistency one to bring this further green, because I don't trust it not to bury some of my effects. And so glazing, again, whenever you see pooling, I see some pooling there, I'm going to pull it right off. And that gives us a little bit more vibrant color. So we're working up to it. But the point with underpainting, and this is why I tell Zenithal, whatever you're using, be ready to take all the time you save, be ready to take a little extra time to make sure that you're getting your paint consistency right and that you're not burying all that underpainting and essentially losing all that work. I'm looking. Uh-oh. There's a mistake. This sleeve should have the same lines. This sleeve should have the same, banded texture, because it does on the front, but it doesn't. Either that or the sleeves. No, there's this one definitely. Unless that's just folds. I don't know. Anyway, it's in the shadow, so it's not going to be seen a lot. It just seems like maybe Bobby forgot to put more folds on. So in my shadows, because it's so dark, but I still want to see the color, so I may put on a little bit of a heavier glaze here to build it up. Because it's going to take, this, no matter what, because we're putting it over this dark color, this green is going to take forever to get heavier. What it is going to do is it's going to lose that shadow there the more I put on it. So I'll have to be careful. But I want that green to definitely show up, even in the shadow. It's just going to be influenced by the shadow color, which is the complement of the light, more or less. So we can see the green there, we can see the green there when you keep moving. But yeah, the point of this poly was to do a directed lighting effect with underpainting that wasn't black and white, but that also was not as bold as the colored undercoat we were doing here with the very extreme blue and yellow, which we're now starting to cover up and work with. And I'm going to need to keep that red. This is actually a good example of overwhelming my base color with my glaze. The red here really hit, and it's really, really strong. I do need to, especially here, I need to make it a little more yellowy for a highlight because it's very uniform, except for the shadow versus the highlight. So this looks good, this orangey part. This orangey part needs to actually be up here. And I need to have it here too, because these are the closest areas to the torch. It's okay for other things to be more of the red, but we can't have the red totally take over. But yeah, it's okay, Polly, to ask the question. I just kind of was like, oh, I just said this. But at least I still have my examples out. But yeah, learn the difference between a wash and a glaze, folks. Because it's purpose-driven, it's paint consistency-driven, and it's how you apply it. So there are 3 key differences. They are very different beasts. You cannot do a wash with a glaze, but you can do a glaze with a wash, which helps to, totally cloud the issue. Alrighty, let's see here. I want to do my browns next with these straps, I think. We could do them complementary colors and do do red and green. Actually, I kind of want to do that now. I want to do a darker red over the pants. So if I use a cooler red, it's not going to work quite as well because of the yellow. So a cooler red over the yellow is going to mute it out a bit. I mean, that's what it would look like, but if you want the red to show more, you want to use something darker, like Asmodeus, something that's more warm, maybe like the Bloodthirsty Reds triad. Yeah, I think I might want to use the red. I think I might want to go green, red, brown. Let's make a Christmas. We don't use green and red together very much because everybody's afraid it's going to look like Christmas, but this is not going to look like Christmas, so. I think I might do the red and then maybe do an additional glaze. So let's do a glaze in 2 colors. How about that? I'm going to do a glaze with my Asmodeus red and a glaze with my ruddy leather. And I'm essentially using ruddy leather because it is a reddish brown. And I'm using the Asmodeus red first because when you do multiple glazes, usually it's the first glaze that ends up having the strongest color identity. Yeah, Asmodeus red is awesome red. All right, so let's start with I'm starting with just a little bit. We'll put these colors next to each other. We'll show you guys this. So I can see that this is very thick right now. It's more of a wash consistency. That's fine. We're going to add another drop of water. That's better. I think I want that. I'll build that up in a couple coats and then I'll put the brown over the top. Well, red and green. But you're not going to see Christmas. It's not going to look that way. Because that's the thing. Is to avoid Christmas, to avoid the red and green that looks like Christmas, you just have to change the red and green to something that is not bright red and green. I mean, that's the point. You can use red and green together, no problem. But you just need to change up which reds and greens you're using. This is not a Christmas color. Like, that is really bright. That's more, you could see that being a Christmas thing. But that's why I'm going to tune it a little bit with this brown. With the ruddy brown. So instead of just mixing these two together and using them, I'm going to glaze them. Because we're glazing anyway. So why not? By using this brown as just an overglaze, I should still be able to use a nice dark brown to glaze the belts and stuff without having too much clashing. Also, the belts are in the middle here. The closest they get to where I want red on this little bit and on the pants. I need to figure out maybe the shield will be red as well, with the little bits in the middle being more gold. All right, so I think those are right, and you can usually tell because when you see those ringing, see the rings that it's drawing in there? That's when you've broken the paint. That's kind of text mark glazing consistency. This is why you can't do a wash with these paints. It'll dry on the surfaces instead of in the cracks. So let us put those colors down. Hi there, Kiki. How are you? Do you want to come up and say hi? Do you want to come say hi to the people? No? Just Pettins? Okay. Okay. The cleaners come later, so she's going to be stuck in my office for a while. Yeah, maybe we'll use the opportunity to clean up our office a little bit, Keeks. Huh? Give you more room? Yeah? Yeah, good girl. Okay, go. Settle. Work. She's just trying to shed more fur onto my stuff. Okay. Let's test out this red. Actually, I think I'm going to take that off real quick. I'm going to use a smaller brush since I'm down to smaller areas. So I'm going to grab my Da Vinci. So we're going to paint this red over. And it's going to go purple over this indigo color. That's fine. And the color that we're getting is going to be in the range that we would get through mixing these colors if we were doing more like, we did a portraiture thing a while ago where I was mixing, that was the mouse actually. We did it portrait style. So portrait painters, to find the shadow colors that they need, will mix their ground color, their surface color, with a bit of the complement color to that, and also the complementary color to the light. So with my light being yellow, having my shadows be purplish is a good call. I could have gone straight purple, but the blue purple I think is close enough. But instead of mixing these colors, we're just glazing. Remember, if it's pooling, it's got to come out. Let's put some red down here. Now, many artists, especially like illustration, like game book covers and stuff like that, they'll cheat a little bit by making, at least giving a little bit of more intense red up here and like a more intense green over here, just to make sure the color, carries. Or they'll have a, a backlighting thing where they've got reflected light so they can, and see how pale that glaze is. It's quite spindly. It does not have a lot of strength to it, so it does mean that you'll be bringing it up with a couple of different layers, but you need to wait until one dries for the next. The other thing we could do, since we see how very thin this is we could say, okay, well, you know what, I think that I can hazard a little bit of a thicker glaze, so I'm going to add another drop of red because I don't want to have to put on too many layers. And I'm experienced enough to know that this will probably be fine. So now my paint consistency is more like a wash. You can see the difference. Now, keep in mind, this is going to dry a lot lighter than it looks wet. All paint is like that. All acrylic paint is like that when you thin it. On the other hand, when you put on acrylic paint in a thick coat, it tends to darken as it dries. But when you have a thinned coat, it will always look darker wet. So it's kind of weird that way. So now we're going to try this out on the shadow side. Shadower side. And that's giving us a stronger appearance. Plus, we're no longer breaking the paint quite as bad. So if we accidentally leave some in the cracks, we're probably okay. But you can see we're getting a result there that's about twice as strong. Let's do another layer up here. Now we don't want to get too saturated up there, so we want to keep an eye on that as it dries, make sure that it still looks redder, but that it's not going to be too distracting. I think it's going to be fine. Yeah, so as it fades out as it dries, that actually is perfect. It still carries the idea of red, especially next to the green. And that's what this helps with, guys, is because the green makes the red look stronger and the red makes the green look stronger. So when you're adding weaker glazes like this, where your color is a little washed out, this can help you simulate color strength. I used to get some of that too. I found that what helped for me is a little bit of lightweight training with arms specifically, like doing dumbbell things like that and doing, curls and things like that with a pair of dumbbells. Weight training helped a lot with hand circulation for me. I don't know if that would be another tactic. I don't know how your physical therapy stuff is going, Kuro, or if you're done with that and pretty much on your own from here on out or what, but the strength training helped a lot for me. And it's just good for you in general as you get older. I don't know what your age is, but it's another option. All right, so now I've got these kind of equal, and it's not reading super red yet. Now what I can do again is I can double down on my glaze more in these transition areas between the shadow and the highlight to bring in that red color a little bit more, just with layering. I think I managed to get David to agree to do some weight training with me this coming Saturday. Yeah, the more I learn about how resistance training helps our bodies, the more I'm totally pro it. I wish I could get my mother. Hey, enough. I wish I could get my mom, convince my mom to lift some weights. I want her to last a good long time. But I don't think I'm going to be able to get her. I might be able to get her to pick up some dumbbells. I don't think I'm going to be able to get her to pick up a barbell. All right, I'm going to get my lemon yellow because I've got what you do sometimes get when you glaze is a little bit of a grittiness. Let me get closer here. See, kind of a grittiness, not smooth. So we can actually layer to get that. So you're not just like, okay, let's face it, like if you just did glazing over everything like this and we just finished it out, it would look fine. Like you could, it would look better than most minis on a gaming table, right? But if you want it to look better than that, sometimes to smooth the highlights, you're going to have to layer. So I'm keeping my lemon yellow here. I think I'm going to glaze everything else and then we can do our adjustments. Yeah, and that's the problem, Airwiz, right? Because when you have the medical stuff and you stop it, you see a huge deterioration, especially when they're older, and you've got to fight to get it back. Like, they've got some really inspiring studies out there right now that shows that even if you're 100, in your 90s, or even 100 years old, your muscle will still respond to resistance training. And that helps with insulin sensitivity. It helps with just metabolism. It helps with, organ fat. It helps with all that kind of thing. So I'm a huge proponent now, but I think my mom's generation, for a woman to be picking up a barbell is just like, that's just a nope. But yeah, if your mom goes back to it, she could recover it. She can get back. Because, yeah, it's like they were talking on my Science-y podcast, my longevity podcast last night. They were talking about how that is the big, like, whammy, is when inevitably you get sick, or, they were pointing to, like, what happened to people, like, during COVID, if they had a lot of bed rest. You lose a ton of muscle mass. But you can get it all back. It's not like it's like you have to lift, you have to do the work. But if you do resistance training with machines or with dumbbells or with whatever, you can get it back. Then people have to kind of feel like they're trotting the same road again to get back what they lost. I'm sure it's demoralizing. There we go. Maybe I'll try to convince my mom. I don't know. If I get David into it, that'll make me happy. I want my David to stick around for a good long time, so... There we go. So a little bit of red there. We can get just a little bit more. Then we'll do our browns. We'll do our skin tones. We'll see what I'm going to do with this metal. I'll have to do some NMM with some of this. I'm sure that the downside of like having David like do the sets that I'm doing on Saturday is that he's totally going to blow my progress out of the water because he's so much stronger and has better cardio health than I do. Like he's going to just bang out those 15 push-ups and I'm going to be struggling after 10 still. Dang it. It's not fair. That's all I'm saying. It's not fair. Yes. Yep. And I've got a little bit of that hood showing there, so I'm going to put a little bit of red right there in that niche. All right, so we can see the red. We can see the green, we can see the red, right, in the shadows, but they're like shadow colors. And that's what they should be. So they should look darker and more muted, more cool, right? So doing the glazing helps you get that without having to learn how to mix these colors. Yeah, you got your hubby convinced. Yeah, definitely be careful, Twistedoma. I mean, definitely exercise because it's going to help improve your quality of life. Like everybody agrees on that. Like if you're smart about it and you don't you know what points of strain you've got and you know where you have to be careful. Pretty much every medical study ever at this point, and the ones they are continually doing, all point to the fact that any form of exercise will help. Strength resistance training specifically can help with certain things that cardio does not. So that's why I'm all in love with it right now. Because it's two different muscle fibers that you build, essentially. Alrighty. Let us go to our browns. Let's go to our browns. I'm so excited. Ooh, all right. I think russet is going to be our best choice. We definitely don't want to use... Oh, I haven't done that brown over the red. But I don't know that I need the brown over the red now. I'm like looking at it. I like how the red is turning out. Maybe a little bit like less, but I don't know. I'm going to finish this out. And if the pants are too bright, then I'll deal with it. But I'm thinking that I might make the shield red also around and make just these little center things metallic. Unicycle. I am not a biker around here. If we lived in the country, I would bike, but city streets make me nervous. So I just do my walking and running. I'm starting to push my running a little bit more now. Like, really starting... Was talking to one of the people in... I think it was Coach Andrew in my CrossFit class, and he points out that a lot of us stop when we don't really need to. Like, we stop the minute we feel a little bit of discomfort. Like, we'll be training jogging or something, and, like, we'll stop when we feel discomfort. But in reality, if we just keep going, we can keep going. Like, it's kind of a mental thing. So I tested that this weekend, actually, by getting myself running, and then I just, like, purposefully was like, I'm going to run a half a block extra. I'm not going to stop at the corner like I usually do, because usually I run a long block. It's about 2 or 3 blocks, short blocks, but yeah, and I could do it, like, and it wasn't even that much more, like, hard. Like, the first one was, but then the second one I actually, like, went way far. I think my cardio endurance is getting good enough that I could run more than I think I can. I think it's that, like, understanding that it was a mental thing. Yeah, I think I'm going to hold off glazing brown on this. I think I'm going to move forward. We're going to do the browns. Maybe I'll do the shield red because that'll bring red up here. And the other thing I'm probably going to do is give him a little bit of red on, like, his nose. Like, make it pinker than his tops of his cheeks there. When we get to the skin tone, it'll be interesting because it's going to be going over that blue. It's going to mute a lot. I may need to put a little extra lemon yellow highlights just to make it look a little bit better like skin tones. Yeah. No, yeah, if your body's too messed up, that makes perfect sense. Alrighty. I'm going to do a big blob of russet brown. The thing is, if I had more yellow on these straps, then I might be able to go with a lighter brown. But if I go with a lighter brown on these straps right now as they are, it's just going to turn green because it's going over the blue-purple. Green or gray, which is what it would do, but I want something that will be a little stronger. So I'm going to use the russet brown. It'll still mute it. Yeah, I'm not comfortable biking in. I mean, David is. He bikes to work every day. And he's got a longer commute now. So he has to leave a little earlier in the morning. So russet brown has a huge amount of coverage. So even though I added the same amount of water I've added for these other things to start out with, it's really strong. So I will need to add another drop of water. I'll need to do more like a 1 to 2. You know what's crazy and unnerves me out here about traffic stuff is the motorcycles. There's a law in California that the motorcycles can actually zip between cars. Like I could swear in Wisconsin this was not a thing. Like you were considered a car like everyone else. You had to pass normally like everybody else. But like they're allowed to like just zip between onto the dotted line and just like trundle up between cars. I'm just shocked that does not make for more accidents. Like, it always, like, freaks me out when a motorcycle is, like, zoom, suddenly right there, right next to me. Well, it's the law here, Polly. It's allowed. Like, I couldn't believe it when David told me that. Yeah, I'm with you, Bryce. It's just wrong. Yeah, I don't know why it hasn't been... Why they haven't, like, ruled against it. It's just so bad. Even I, the noob, can see that it's bad. All right, so we're going to glaze that brown in there. You see that? Because it's so strong, it instantly takes over. I'm keeping this glaze a bit thicker. Whenever there's that yellow highlight underneath, it catches it. So what this is doing is allowing us to lay down our shadow, midtone, and highlight all in one little brush stroke because we did our underpainting. And like I said, if you want to do more toward the end, you can do layering to bring up your highlights more. Which, you know, yeah, if you want it, I would recommend it. If you want the model to be, like, better. But if you're just looking for some way to, like, get a nice result, like if I was doing a D&D model just for a game, I would absolutely be into doing this. Because it took us very little time to do the sketch. And then it's just glazing, which is super fast. It takes much less time. Yeah, I'm just not willing to do that, Thormel. I don't, like, biking is not my, like, it might be one of my least favorite cardios at this point. Like, I like jumping rope and rowing and running, I think, all better than I like cycling. And which is funny, because when I was a kid, I really liked cycling, but I was also out in the country, and I felt safer there. I knew how to act around those drivers. And it is probably just a learning curve, but I don't own a bike. If David wants to do what his parents do and start, you know, biking more, like, to see the world kind of thing, I would have to get comfortable with it. But, so there we go. We can see. Right away, you can see that as I apply the paint, it looks like it's very dark, but then as it dries, you start to see all of the underpainting, and it's a lot less vibrant. It, like, fades out a little bit. Battle bike, yep. And I like to make all my leathers the same color on a model. You could vary here, but I wouldn't vary here because like our red is right down here. So if we did a reddish brown right on this one, it would not work so well with these red pants down here. This is going to look a little bit different. Since the russet brown is more of a yellow brown, it's a dark yellow brown, it's going to look different from that red. Alrighty. I think we've actually got a little bit of an elbow plate here, which I didn't realize, over the top of the bracer. I'm going to do the bracer in brown also. So again, I'm just repeating colors over the model. Don't feel like you're lazy when you do this. This is efficient. You're essentially making sure that your color scheme is cohesive and that it works together by repeating colors instead of reaching for a new color. Yeah, there's, I think, another plate back there. And then there's the bracer here. And we're starting to really get a feel for color here. Yeah, that's too bad, Pernico. Those are people who like are like, what? How much bitterness does it take to do that in a person, to be that targeting your fellow humans kind of person? We also need to think about the hair on his feet. I may go with a slightly lighter brown there. We'll see. Because he has a little bit of his hair showing back here as well. Although it is going to read as a different color. And this is another thing to think about. Like, most of the brown here is in shadow. Most of my leather here is in shadow. So if I take this same brown and I glaze it over parts of his hair that are really light, like here and here, it's actually going to look like a different color. But I think maybe I'll just lighten that up a little bit in a moment. And let's do skin. I am going to mix up, I am going to get my lemon yellow out, because I think I might want to put just a little bit, cheat and put a little bit more highlighting on the face. I don't know, entitlement is lack of empathy. For sure. I feel like entitlement is like, I deserve X. Whereas lack of empathy is just like, more like, it's about me and not about you. I can't see your side. I don't know what it would be technically. All right. I'm going to thin down this lemon yellow a couple drops. I'm going to do a 1-to-1. I want it a little bit thinner. I just want to be able to like throw it onto the surface a little bit. And I'm going to put some white in it because we were working with it with white in it. So one thing I did find out about, guys, I thought I would bring this up with my anti-aging podcast, my science-y podcast, is there's a dog project for it. Here, let me share. It seems to be a fair bit of work, but it's super cool. It's called, I found out about this from my Longevity Human podcast. It's called the Dog Aging Project. And what it is it is a huge project. It's got 50,000 people in it right now, or 50,000 dogs, I should say. But it's essentially like doing, like they're measuring like muscle and mobility. You have to fill out some surveys. But project overview. At Dog Aging, we conduct rigorous scientific research designed to define, explain, and ameliorate the effects of aging. And their goal is to figure out how your dog can live a longer, happier life, and they're studying it. Studying aging in humans is challenging and expensive, but dogs are science's best friends. So essentially, they're doing this to help dogs, but they also are hoping to find stuff that will help people. Oh, that's just so bad. It's just so bad, Carnico. It's really disappointing about people. But anyway, so you can enroll your dog in the Dog Aging Project. It's free. I think you need to check in, like, you need to get a baseline with the veterinarian. You have to, like, get a DNA panel, stuff like that, you know, because they're trying to establish, to figure out where your dog fits. But your dog can be any age. And one thing that they're doing also is when your dog is older, they can qualify for anti-aging trial with one of the drugs that people are trying to figure out if it's an anti-aging drug. I can't remember. It's the second one. But yeah, so you can enroll your dog in clinical trials, and the whole purpose is to figure out how we can get better quality of life and longevity in our dogs. Yeah, it is pretty awesome. Like, because whatever they figure out for dogs, like, you know, that can be applied to maybe people, maybe cats, you know. I was just like, I fell in love with this thing instantly. So I'm going to look into it and see, like, how much work and expense it is to do for Kiki. Yeah, I'd wait for a nice gold standard study on that stuff, Foreshadow, before you. There's so many. The thing is that there's so much money in anti-aging, especially for pets, because people will spend any amount of money to keep their animals happy longer, right? So just be very suspicious of any claims you hear until it's been really validated. Because there are like 4, I think, big human like drugs with potential for like human anti-aging, and one of them is pretty promising. The other one is the next one is kind of fuzzy, and the others are kind of worse than that. So that's nice. Yeah, I mean, definitely. The nice thing is that since people love their pets, studies are getting funded for this kind of stuff. But not all studies are created equal, so. But that would be good, because cats are so prone to kidney disease. Yeah, that would make sense. And I'm just trying to get some differentiation here. I'm putting some lining in around these little panels on the helmet. But yeah, the dog aging project just makes me exciting because you can go anybody. Anybody can join it with any dog. And they're doing like serious, like gold standard, double blind. They're doing the gold standard of studies on that. So it's actually run well. So I'm just doing a little bit of extra lining in here. Hey, Rain. There we go. I just wanted those little fins to stand out a little bit better before I start going in here. Now I want to do a little bit more yellow on his face. His eyes are so deep set that I don't know that I'm going to be able to paint them very well. But the way that I'm done the lighting effect is they're very overshadowed anyway. They're very deep set. So if I don't paint them, it's not a... Oh, no, I didn't actually go, Bryce. I went down on Saturday night to have dinner with David and Matt DiPietro and to hang out with Sue Wachowski a little bit. David's never aware of any drama. Like, he tends to be kind of out of the loop on that. So if there was drama, I didn't know. One of the usual suspects, David Powell, won Best in Show, I think. But I just didn't participate this year. I've been focused, all the painting I've been doing has been for me. Yeah, David got DQ'd. He was on the judging team, Bryce, and he's like, they made me back down. They made me unenter. I'm like, well, you're a judge. Unlike at ReaperCon, they didn't have any backups, right? So David got DQ'd. It was okay. I could probably show you guys his model if he unpacked it. Hold on, let me see if I can find his model. I like to sneak peek David's models on the stream. Hold on. Let me see. Try one more place. There she is. I found it. All right, let me back up. And David painted this one. She's really nice. The detail on the leather, on the cap. This is, I think, a Black Crow, isn't it? Isn't it, Bryce? I think it's Black Crow. Black Crow Miniatures. The leather, I love the leather texture on the hat. I think it's perfect. And then he did actual true metallics on this one, which he doesn't do very often. And I like the freehand, which he's, always bitchy about, but he did well. The birdie is nice. Yeah, so there we go. There's David's entry. I'm gonna put it up here to keep it safe, and then I'll put it back after. But yeah, so that was his entry. But yeah, I mean, everything I've been painting, has been for me, right? Like, Dragon's nice, but... And I'll put him in at ReaperCon, but he's not really... I'm just painting to paint. I'm trying to, keep my love going, right? And I haven't really been in try-hard mood. Other than, the real, pushing myself on the prep on my, my Golden Demon piece. I have not been in try-hard mode. I just have not been in the mood for it. So, all right, let's do a skin color. Let's mix a skin color. And the reason I would do that is that a lot of skin colors are desaturated. You know, so by mixing it like Luca does, we can keep our saturation higher. I'll do my standard. I'll do my rich leather and magenta mix, which I really like and I know, so I can dial it in fast. Yeah, dragon's almost done. Kuro, we did the belly this weekend. Dragon is very, very close. All right, so let's grab some magenta and then some white, and we're gonna yeah, David's good. So we're gonna mix raw sienna and magenta. And I don't know that we're going to add any white to them because we're going to be glazing them. So I want the color to be pretty intense. So I'm going to drop a little bit of water into this. I might need a little bit more. A little bit more magenta. But it's hard to tell. So, okay, I'm going to put a tiny bit of white in this. It's dicey to put white in this, though, because we're trying to glaze it. And so if you add white, you add opacity. And so this can be kind of fraught. I think what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of this over here and add white to that. Because adding the white does let me see like how much relative pink I have in the mix. Yeah, see, still very golden. So I want more. My gut was right. I need more magenta if I want it to read as a skin color. Now it's a little bit too pink. If I put that in. Well, it might work. It might work, actually. It is very pink, but a little bit more yellow. A little bit. All right, there we go. That's skin color. And I'm just going to thin it. And I think that's going to be about perfect. If I added white to this, it would be a good skin tone. And if I want to test that again, I can throw a little bit over here. Throw a little bit more white in it. We can see that that does make a skin tone. So even if this balance is a little bit off because I've been throwing more stuff in here, but it's close enough. So yeah, other than that, Michael Kleiman actually, he didn't really give a speech at the award ceremony, but David said that Michael said one of the best things he's ever heard, something that David felt was a truly excellent thing to say. At the award ceremony, which was that there were several people, because there is at Kubla, they do both a basic level of mini painting, and then they do the masters, so that the competition you can enter either the regular or the masters competition. And there were many people this year who entered both, and many of those people got a gold in the regular competition, but only a certificate in Masters. And it's easy to take that to mean that you don't belong in Masters, right? But that's really far from the truth. So apparently at the award ceremony, Michael made a point of saying, to those of you who did this and got this result, what this means is that you are in exactly the right place. You should be in Masters. And the certificate is a sign that, okay, you're here, now you can improve, right? Because you're never going to take your gold standard work from, and this is both the downside and the upside to having a split competition, which ReaperCon does not have. ReaperCon has everybody all together. And I'm I don't like the split competitions a lot of the time. I like kind of everybody on the same playing field kind of thing. And I think you still can see what to aspire to. But you could argue that the basic competition, master competition, gives you more steps. So like, say you've got certificate through gold in your basic competition, and then boom, you jump the next step and you're at certificate in the masters, and then you work your way up in masters. But masters is a very, very high level judged competition. It is hard. So I thought, I agree with David that saying, like, essentially saying, even if you only got a certificate in masters, like, you belong here, right? You belong here. It's just that now you know that you need to improve to get to bronze, right? That's your goal, is now to take where you are, gold standard of regular and certificate of masters, and now you start pushing yourself. So that's like kind of the mindset, rather than, oh, I got a certificate, I don't belong here, which is, sometimes that would be our knee-jerk response. So I'm going to glaze this skin color over the face. And it's really, really lightweight because I thinned it, so I'm going really gently with it. Kind of like, it's more like not to get disheartened because you got a certificate, right? It's like, getting a certificate just means, hey, you can improve from here, but you belong here. Like, we want you to improve, right? It's more of a positive message. The people who are the big fish in the small pond are the people who don't even enter masters. They just sit there getting gold at the regular level year after year. But presumably, if you enter masters, you want to improve. You want to be up there. And there's a very long-standing community out here in the Bay Area as far as mini painting. So there we go. So it's going a bit dark, but then most of the face is in shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my yellow. I'm going to kind of reaffirm these highlights a little bit here. I'm going to put a little bit of red over the nose. So the face here I'm going to tune a little bit more. Right, exactly. That's exactly that mindset, Shadow Raven. Yeah, but it's mindset, Val. It is, and you would have benefited from somebody giving you that feedback that, hey, you belong here. You belong at ReaperCon. You belong in the hobby. Now is just a sign that it's time to get better. Like, and here are the tools to get better because you're at a con filled with people who are doing great work, who are all teaching, and who will all give you feedback. As well as just the regular attendees who are scoring higher, who are often just happy to give feedback as well. All right, I'm going to bring some pink in. I'm going to grab the magenta for the nose, not the red that we're using down here, because the red down here is really is dark, and I don't want that on the face. I just want a little tinge of pink. So a little magenta. Such a small area, but I want to dial this in. So I'm going to grab my magenta and build a new well of glaze. Boop. Yeah, well, and that's always the thing, right? We get embarrassed. Even though nobody's looking at us, it's just us. It's just us with our hobby. Nobody's going to, look at you and, look down on you just because you got a certificate. They're going to assume that, well, you just have a ways to go in the hobby, and that's cool. Thanks for entering, right? That's the thing. A lot of the stuff that we get into is entirely due to mindset. It's all in our heads. It's all of our brain. Our brain getting embarrassed and thinking, I don't want to feel this again. I just should just stop, right? So I'm going to give a little bit of magenta here, a little bit of magenta glaze. Get a little bit of pink on the nose there. And I'm also going to put a little bit of magenta down in the shadows of the cheeks. Really ruddy it up. I'm going to have to go back and forth a little bit here because using glazes over the faces when it's this small, when I have this small of an area, is tough. I'm going to actually put a little bit more white into my yellow. And actually I'm going to build up a lighter, almost yellow white. And use that. It's going to be a lot easier to do this over. I think that given my results here, I will add a little bit of white. I don't know though, with this hand here. I'm really reluctant to add the white. I'd much rather highlight. But yeah, every show is going to be different. And you could win a gold at ReaperCon and not win anything at Golden Demon. And it happened. David's won best in show at ReaperCon, and he hasn't ever won anything other than the pin at Golden Demon. He's never gotten into the final 3. So it's all... Every competition's a little different, and there are definitely like higher level competitions and ones that are more... friendly to like people who are trying to get into it. I still think ReaperCon is a very friendly to get into it competition because there's so much support. So I'm doing some mixing here. I'm grabbing my russet brown and my skin tone, and I'm just like emphasizing the shadow around the mouth here. I'm going to get down here to his chin. He's just got an odd shaped nose. Yeah, and I think that that's true of everything, Val. Like when it's a competitive environment, I think that it's always the ego check that's going to get you. And that again is mindset, right? Why did you, like, if you're entering just for validation, then yeah, you're going to get that ego check pretty quick. If you're entering a serious competition where there's a lot of competition. But that's not like a sign that you don't belong there. It's just the nature of the beast. If there was no climb, it wouldn't be rewarding. And that's why, like, just finding joy in painting and in developing your hobby for yourself in line with whatever goal you have is like the best thing. The most rewarding thing. That's why I'm just painting right now, like for myself. I'm not trying to like be like to better what I already have. Yeah, no idea, Rain. Because it was like a con. Wasn't John at a con last week? So there's our skin tone. We have a skin tone. Yay, and it is noticeably a skin tone. Now that I have that, I can kind of tune what I'm doing here. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit of white into my skin tone. Enough to bring it up. It's a little bit light. See, a little bit lighter. It's not this, but it's a little bit better. So I'm going to use that on the hands and the feet. Yeah. When will John be? I guess John, if you're listening, do you know if there will be a Reaper Live this week? Sometimes he's just listening. So we're glazing over the little hand there, and you can see the skin color coming up, which tells me I made the right choice and it looks good. Now this hand is in shadow, so any color that you're seeing is just because of like reflected light. I hope you guys had a really good weekend. I had a good one. I let myself slack a lot, which means that I didn't get the garage cleaned out, but I did get a lot of energy back. The book is almost done. Like the book, I'm to the point in Rite of Winter where I'm like, hey, I can see this thing being done, which is exciting. And then, of course, I need to do the rewrite. I've got all my notes for the rewrite. But I'm excited. I'm excited. Like, now I can actually, like, looking at it, I'm like, I could get this done in short order, depending on how the writing goes over the next several days. Yeah, with Reaper, it's always going to be the wait and see game. Sometimes we know in advance, sometimes we don't. Well, I got into the Facebook group for Kiki's nieces and nephews. Let's see here if I can find it. There we go. So there's Kiki's brother, and there's Emmy, who he was bred to, and then we've got the little puplings. There they are, the puplings, with their little paws sticking up in the air. That one's funny. The ones that nurse upside down are always the funniest with their little paws. There were the puplings with Mama Emmy, doing a good job. There's Mama Emmy. She's just a pretty girl. Yay! So there they are, guys. There they are, the puplings. There's a wrinkly face for you. They're still little podlings. The feets. Yeah, I know, they're adorable. Here's a sweetie. There's a sweetie face. Such a sweetie face. Let's see. I like purple. Purple's very cute. Purple's very cute. There you go. So 1 week old. And I just purchased my plane ticket, so I'm committed. Committed to going out to help with the litter evaluation on those little guys and gals. Mostly gals. All right, let's do our other hand here. So I'm using a much thicker glaze here. So we can still see, the test here is if we cover this up, can we still see all the different colors here? And we really can, so... One thing I did notice, like, it was curious over the weekend, and this is another one of those people things. But, like, have you ever noticed, and it's, I think this is the root as I think about it, you know, sometimes it's like people who are kind of like, I'm not really painting right now, I feel bad coming to paint club. And I was always like, no, come, hang out, just chat, right? But sometimes people give you a kind of weird vibe if you aren't active in the hobby. Like, they don't know what to say to you anymore. Like, I got that a little bit. It was funny because I, met up with 2 friends at at Kubla over the weekend. And when I was like, yeah, I've kind of stepped back from teaching, one of them was just like, went quiet, didn't know what to say. And the other one was like, oh, totally, I get it. You're into so many things. And it's funny. Yeah, that's cool, Rain. Yeah, that was one of my old miniatures friends is also a writer. She is mostly stepped back from miniatures and is mostly writing now. So it was nice to talk about. We have very different, like, kind of ways to work. So I'm going to put some lining in just to make sure I've got that. But you can see the skin tone is just very dark. Everything is very dark on this side, right? I could bring up a little bit with, again, I've mixed this lighter skin color. So we know that fingertips are catching the light a little bit. So we could bring that up a little bit. if we want to make sure the skin tone doesn't get lost, we can do a little artificial, you know, make it a little bit stronger, even though it wouldn't be too strong, but it's still colder than it is here. And so I still feel like it's okay. You just don't want it to be like really warm if it's in shadow. That's because it's red over the blue color, Twisted Oma. Because it's red going over the blue-purple color, it makes that purple look. It's the same glaze that I did down here, and the same number of times. It's just that this part doesn't get any of that yellow light, whereas here on the front of the knee and here on the side of the leg it does. So it makes a big difference. Also, this probably needs to get a little colder to be more like this. But yeah, it was just funny. It's like, for me, I don't care what you're doing. Like, I just want to hear how you've been and what you've been up to, right? So if you haven't been painting, you know, what have you been doing with yourself? That kind of thing. I kind of have that. It was just odd. Because sometimes people will just kind of go quiet on you if you're not, like, if you can't talk the hobby. And I'm like, well, just because I'm not teaching doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. Doesn't mean I'm not painting. It doesn't mean I'm not, you know. It was just a little odd, and I was like, all right. So I just switched the conversation to all miniatures all the time, you know, and talked about like the Chimera Kickstarter and stuff like that. And then it was fine, but it was just a little weird. Also, I found out about Cruisehammer, which I kind of had known about under the radar before, but I never had really consciously like thought about, which is the Warhammer Cruise. If you want to go and play. And Matt DiPietro is apparently going to be teaching painting on that, which is a pretty cool deal because they cover your cruise room if you're an instructor. So he and his wife get to go on a Caribbean cruise for a vacation, and all he has to do is teach classes while they're at sea, which I thought was totally awesome. Hey, Reaper John, they were wondering if Reaper Live was on today. Or on this week, if Reaper Live was back this week. Ooh, wow, Dabber. Well, I'm glad that you're recovering. Awesome. Get yourself back on your feet. Except that with the cruise ships, like it has to be really rough seas, Curly, before you get any motion at all. I actually was disappointed the last cruise I went on because the ship didn't rock very much. Except for the one night when we were heading out of port in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, I know you were at the con all weekend. Oh, okay. Okay, so Reaper Live, probably. We have a probably. Oh, was it? Wow. Nurgle outbreak, yep. That's funny. But yeah, you're right. It would be a bit dicey to try to do mini painting if you ended up in rough seas. This is a Western Caribbean, so I don't know if they're... And they're not going anywhere near Bermuda. So the Bermuda Triangle won't be a factor. Alright, let's get this darker skin color over the leg there. Two a year. BGG does 2 a year. Nice. Yeah, it's a really cool idea. I hope it gets gets more traction. Like, I would love it. I think that's a great idea. Like, have miniatures events on your days at sea, and then get to go and do port activities and fun stuff on the days when you are in port. That just sounds so cool. Like, so I just relined between the toes because I lost a little bit of that. And we need to question what we're going to do with the hair soon, which I'm more or less leaning toward a brown. Because I don't want to go red because we've already put red on the model. If we had gone with a different color, like if we've gone for like a dark blue with the pants and stuff, then red would be a great choice. But right now, I don't feel like the red would work very well next to the red shorts. So I think we're going to go with brown for the fur, for the furry, hairy feet. Oh, wow. Sorry, Crowley. I'm really sorry you had that experience. My mom gets seasick, and it's a real pain, and then you don't enjoy the vacation at all. So as we put this same color over the lighter, you can see the skin tone really coming out over the lighter foot. Oh, Kiki, come on. I know it's time. I know it's time for me to call, but I wanted to finish the skin tones, Kiki. I wanted to finish the skin tones. I don't remember if my mom got a patch or if she takes pills for seasickness at this point. But my dad loves cruises, so. There we go. Oh, once you were better, you enjoyed yourself. Good. Yeah, Kiki with the time check. All right, so we'll stall it there. But look at all the time. Look at all the progress we've gotten. I think this is looking pretty good. I need to highlight the skin more. Yes, happy Tuesday to you. Bye, Crowley. I need to put more of a little bit of skin. I just wanted to get this skin color like glazed everywhere I needed it before because I don't want to remix it all that much next time we get together. I get the back of the heel here. Alrighty, there we go. Happiness. Feet and halfling. Ta-da! Yeah, I'm liking this. I'm liking how it's going. We'll definitely do some layering. We need to do the I'll do the red on the shield next time, I think, because I think it does need it. Like, if I pull the red up here to the edge, then that travels the red around the figure, because I put a little bit of red on the face. I've got the red down there, red up here. So that'll make... The red is the, like, warmest color, so it can make the eye kind of travel. And otherwise, I think it's looking really nice. So... Oh, no, Crowley. But anyway, tomorrow on Pro Tips, we are back to our happy little Night Elf Druid, or our happy huge Night Elf Druid, as the case may be. We had started doing some green work back here and filling in this area. I'll see. I'm not sure if I want to finish the green tomorrow. We might do a half and half stream. We did the birdie. The birdie is nice now, so I might do the gemstone and then do the green. Like, we might do that. We might split it that way. No. Twisted Oma Ron really liked that I did it as a World of Warcraft Night Elf. He's a fan of Blizzard art. So I decided that I was going to just not do the wings, because already she's going to take so long because she's so big. So if I had to do wings, we'd be working on this forever, and it would be totally boring with the wings because they would take a long time. So Kiki enough. So we are not doing wings. We are filling it in. I made the decision. We'll still do the otter because she can still have an otter friend. But I'm just going to say no wings. So we're filling in that stuff. It'll also make her different from the studio model that Reaper already has. So that'll be nice. And yeah, hey, enough. She must have heard people. There are people out like trimming their trees and stuff. All right. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm glad that most of you had a good weekend. I hope you have a good week. It's a short week for those of us who had yesterday off, which I love. I just am so in the mood for summer. So in the mood for summer. Yeah, it's time for walkies for sure. on one of those poor wingless dragons. I'll keep them, but yeah. Thanks, John. Have a great week. I hope you enjoyed your con. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.